Today we're going to be talking about rate of change, and rate of change is just another way to say slope. And we've already talked about slope. Slope is always rise over run, so we'll kind of reiterate some of that here. The only difference between rate of change and slope, right here, the only difference is that you include units because it's a rate. Just like a unit rate always has units, a rate of change will always include units. So here's some just vocab review that's good for us to remind ourselves of. A ratio is a comparison of two numbers by division, so it's always written like a fraction. A rate is a ratio that compares two quantities in different units, so miles per hour or dollars per gallon. A unit rate is a rate with a denominator of 1, so how much does it cost for 1 gallon of gas, or how far do you go in, how many miles do you go in 1 hour? So what does this have to do with graphing? Well, whenever we're graphing, we're comparing quantities on the x and y axis. So how do we find rate of change? We find slope, rise over run. And if you remember, if your graph, you read a graph from left to right. So if you're going up, you've got a positive slope or a positive rate of change. From left to right, if you're going down, you've got a negative rate of change. If you've got a horizontal line, you've got no change or a zero slope. And then if you've got a vertical slope, you've got undefined rate of change. And so we always include units when we write the ratio, and it's super duper important that we always remember to reduce the ratio. So it might be useful to write it as a unit rate. So down at the bottom it says writing a verbal description. Pay attention to the title on your graph and then use words from each axis in your answer. So we're going to be using graphs today to talk about rate of change. And again, rate of change is just another way for slope. And it's going to be really important that we include units. And so what they're saying down here is that we're going to use the title and the labels on our axis, x and y, to help us with those units.